Brought to you by 1AAuto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet.
Hi, I'm Don from 1A Auto. I hope this how-to video helps you out. And the next time you need a part for your vehicle, think of 1AAuto.com. Thanks.
In this video, we're going to show you how to replace an alternator in a 2002 non-turbo V70. It's fundamentally the same operation for a 2001 through 2007 non-turbo V70 and non-turbo S60. In order to perform this repair, you're going to need a 10, 12, 13, and 14 millimeter sockets, socket wrench, pliers, wire cutters, zip ties, and a long flathead screwdriver. You'll find the battery in the trunk underneath the rear containment panel. Lift that up and you'll find three 13 millimeter fasteners. In this case the car doesn't have it, but take those out and then remove the battery cover and then disconnect the negative battery terminal with a 10 millimeter socket wrench. Remove the air intake hose from above the radiator and then from the bottom of the air box. Attached to the radiator there will be two connectors, one to the radiator fan control unit and then another one that goes to an evap purge valve. You're going to want to cut all of the zip ties that keep those cables and connectors to it and then pull them out of the way. Remove the 10 millimeter screw that holds the evap purge valve to the front end. Locate the two 10 millimeter screws, one on either side, that hold the radiator in. I'll fast forward as I take those two out. Plastic clip that holds the power steering line to the dipstick tube. Remove the evap valve from the radiator fan. Pull the purge hose off the top of the radiator fan and just set that at the side and then start to jiggle the radiator fan up and out and see if it gets caught on anything. If it does, just move those things out of the way. Go ahead and put a little pressure against that power steering line to move it forward or towards the engine so that you get a little bit more room to get the radiator fan out, and then it's just a matter of positioning it correctly. And you'll see when you look down inside where the obstacles are, but it's pretty straightforward. Just keeping that power steering line out of the way and pulling it up past the radiator fan control module and then up and out. I'm going to remove the clip that holds that power steering pipe in place and then use a long flat screwdriver to pry the power steering reservoir up and out of the way. Locate the 14 millimeter bolt in the center of the idler pulley using a 14 millimeter socket and socket wrench. Turn towards the front of the car, so turn clockwise, applying pressure that way, and then take the belt off. And after you've got the belt off the pulleys, release the tension on the tensioner pulley and the socket wrench very slowly. As it's spring loaded, you don't want it to snap back. Locate the three 12 millimeter bolts that go through the power steering pump pulley. The arrow is pointing to the bottom right bolt, and then the two red circles are the approximate position of the other two bolts that you're going to need to take out. It'll be necessary to rotate the pulley to access those bolts. And I'm using a 1/4 inch socket wrench with a 12 millimeter socket on it to remove those three bolts, and I'll go ahead and fast forward as I do it. Just keep in mind that you're going to need to turn the pulley as you're removing these to get access to the bolts behind them through the holes in the pulley itself. With those three bolts out of the way, remove the connector that's attached to it by the clip that the power steering hose goes into and just push it aside, and then you can pull up on the power steering pump and pull it up out of the way. Keep in mind that that solid hose stays on it. On the back side of the alternator, remove the cap that goes over the power wire, and then also that connector right there, pull that out. Remove the 13 millimeter nut that holds the positive wire to the back of the alternator. The AC compressor is located directly beneath the alternator, and there are two 12 millimeter bolts that go through it. Go ahead and remove those. I'll fast forward as I do that. On the bottom of the AC compressor, you'll find the same 12 millimeter bolts. Go ahead and slacken off on those. You don't have to fully remove them. Locate the 13 millimeter bolt that goes through the top of the alternator there. I'll fast forward as I remove that 13 millimeter bolt. Now go ahead and reach in and pull your alternator over towards the middle of the engine, and you're going to need to twist it up. I keep that power steering line out of the way. It's actually easier. You'll see now that it should come down and then come out on the even further more towards the driver's side, and that's what I'm doing here is I'm dropping it back down, being careful of any connector and of the radiator in front, and you see it just wants to come out a little bit easier over there. There's a little bit more room. Go ahead and put it back in, starting from that side where you pulled it out, and you can see here how I'm twisting it and getting it into place so that that lower bracket goes in behind the top of the AC compressor. I'm going to reinstall that 13 millimeter bolt that goes in on the top side of the alternator, and I'll fast forward as I get that bolt started. And you don't want to tighten it all the way yet because you still got to line up the bottom with the other two 12 millimeter bolts. Now go ahead and reinstall those two long 12 millimeter bolts that we took out of the top of the AC compressor. Those are the same ones that go through the bottom of the alternator and into the block. Go ahead, reinstall those and tighten them up, as well as the two on the bottom of the AC compressor, the two below that we just loosened up. Tighten those back up. Now go ahead and tighten up that 13. Reinstall the connector on the back of the alternator, and then go ahead and put your power cable back on and screw on your 13 millimeter nut. Finish tightening the 13 millimeter with a socket wrench. Reinstall the plastic cap on the positive cable. Now you can put your power steering pump back into place and line it up with the three holes that match up to it with the bracket, and then go ahead and reinstall the three 12 millimeter bolts that you took out. I'll fast forward as I do that. Before putting the belt back on, familiarize yourself with the belt diagram that we've made here. You could even print it out if you need to. I'm going to go ahead and put the belt back on, and you're going to get your belt, get it lined up on the pulleys except for the power steering pulley. That's where we're going to use a point for it to slip on. Grab the 14 millimeter wrench or socket and socket wrench that you've got on the tensioner pulley and start putting tension on it towards the front of the car, so clockwise. And you just keep ratcheting it, and while you're doing that, slip more and more of the belt on. It can be a little tough, but the more that you get the belt on, the easier it is going to be to ratchet and get more free play. Clip the connector back in place, line up the guides on the power steering reservoir and clip it back into the coolant bottle and push the tab over the hose. Here we're showing you the two tabs on the bottom of the radiator fan and then where they sit on the radiator itself, and those are going to need to slide in. Going back in with the radiator fan, just want to make sure I don't pinch any wires, keep everything out of the way. Go in with maybe the right side first, get it around the transmission lines, and then go ahead in and get it past the power steering line. Make sure that you keep the harnesses out of the way because they will make it harder for you to get it in there. And I'm just going to fast forward as I finish putting that in. Put the coolant purge hose that runs along the top of the radiator fan shroud back in place before you put that purge valve back in, then screw in that 10mm that holds it in. From there you can go ahead and start to zip tie back the harnesses and connectors that go along the fan shroud. And I'll fast forward as I reconnect everything and zip tie it back into place. Install the two bolts that hold the radiator fan to the radiator assembly in the upper corners. I'll fast forward as I go ahead and do that. Go ahead and reinstall the clip that went on the oil dipstick tube and plug your or put your power steering line back in. If you pulled your dipstick out, go ahead and put that in and then reconnect the air intake pipe. Reinstall the negative battery terminal and tighten it up with the 10mm wrench. And once you're done with that, go ahead and put the cover back on. And if you have the 13mm nuts, go ahead and install those and tighten the 13mm bolt that bracket slips into.
We hope this helps you out. Brought to you by www.oneauto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet. Please feel free to call us toll-free 888-844-3393. We're the company that's here for you on the internet and in person.